MSB here, and in this episode of Lore Locked, we'll be looking at Entrath from above as we witness the catastrophic impact of the asteroid HEX, the event which is the focal point of a tremendous amount of lore. Locking in our theme, we start on the planet of Entrath over 2,300 years ago, where the natives developed in a generally regular fashion, squabbling, creating orders and factions, and progressing with their lives. Little did they know that their greatest threat would arrive from off their world in the form of a crystalline asteroid, later named HEX, speeding towards Entrath on a direct collision course. Magic users were exceedingly rare on Entrath, with only exceptionally talented individuals able to feebly tap into the two most primal of forces, wild or life magic, and blood or death magic. And one such group of Entrathian mages and scientists called themselves the Order of the Frost Ring, and built the Frost Ring Arena in the Hyperborean Mountains far to the north. Shortly after construction of the arena was completed, HEX descended onto Entrath. With an incredible impact, HEX punctured the planet at its north pole, diving straight through the core and exiting from the south pole. Two large fragments of the crystalline asteroid split off during the impact. The first was a massive sapphire, later named Frostheart. Seconds after the blast wave, this gem crashed into the Frost Ring Arena, sending out a devastating wave of frost magic which consumed the Order of the Frost Ring, encasing their bodies and souls in blue-sheened ice. Fascinating lore concerning Frostheart developed significantly in sets 7 and 8, Frostheart and Dead of Winter respectively, which went into far more detail about the sapphire, so I'm sure that will be the subject of a future video. The second fragment was a colossal diamond, the largest single piece of HEX that remains on Entrath. This fragment landed near the necropolis, a huge tomb built by humans under the Hyperborean Mountains, and used for generations to inter all the deceased heroes of humankind. The necrotic now refer to this diamond as Volosolov, and this entity appears to direct or influence them. Inferences can be made about the HEX asteroid from this, that it was a vessel of sorts that housed an alien intelligence, with each crystal either the natural form of one of those aliens itself, or perhaps the distilled essence of an alien, or the whole asteroid being a collective of aliens formed into a physical object. After the impact, gargantuan volcanoes spewing magic-infused lava formed at the two poles where HEX entered and exited, and the asteroid, slowed by the friction of puncturing a planet, was trapped in orbit around HEX. This crystalline satellite still floats around the planet, its ominous form sparkling in the distance while we all wait for the next monumental event it will cause. While the impact of HEX caused terror, death, and destruction, at least one person on Entrath actually knew ahead of time that the meteor would hit the planet: Brother Erasmus. Brother Erasmus was a cleric and historian of Entrathian royalty, and through the Midnight Cards, we can see that he came to have visions of HEX prior to its arrival on Entrath. In addition to knowing when the asteroid would hit, these visions included instructions to place diamond shards of it into the eye sockets of renowned human kings and queens, which would bring them back from death. Taking a pilgrimage to the necropolis, he would have been close to where Volosolov struck. While at the time Erasmus may not have known the outcome of these instructions, we now know this was how the first of the necrotic rose on Entrath. After reflecting on his deeds and realizing the horror he had birthed onto Entrath, Brother Erasmus took his own life, dooming himself to a tortured existence as a spirit appearing in the cloister. But who gave Brother Erasmus these visions, and how could they have convinced him to perform such terrible actions? From the art style on Midnight Hour, the visions plaguing Brother Erasmus may have been inflicted upon him by the entities of chaos, as their ability to corrupt and compel otherwise good beings to do their bidding is unparalleled. Perhaps their goal was to have the necrotic established on Entrath to ensure that tomes, long since sealed by humans, were uncovered, allowing the twisted magic of chaos free again. Or perhaps their goal was to gain direct access to the shards of HEX by having their carriers thrown into the pitch-black portals of chaos. Further lore about the Chaos Touch is developing in the current set, Dead of Winter, so this will definitely be a topic to return to in another video. In the wake of the collision and shattering of the asteroid, shards of HEX, now called Hexing Gems, littered the planet, with potent magical energy contained within each one. After their discovery, Entrathians rushed in an arms race to collect and use these gems to increase their power, causing conflicts to grow in destructive force. It was discovered that each race had a compatibility with different shards of HEX, and this is represented by the shard affinity chart for the PvE campaign characters we make now, their magical potential dwarfing that of mortals in the past. An immeasurable number of beings died, not only from the impact of Hex, but also the wars its coming spawned, and now the catastrophic havoc inflicted by these distant events on the survivors' descendants has left an eternal scar on them, which matches the one left on their planet. With the lore of Hex's impact in mind, let's take a look at the Pve Theme Deck that encompasses the most significant event that has ever happened on Entrath. In it is 3 Comet Strikes, 1 Midnight Hour, 4 Midnight Specialists with chest equipment, 4 Midnight Paladin with weapon equipment, 1 Midnight Convergence, 4 Midnight Fever with helm equipment, 4 Prodigy of Volosolov, 4 Midnight Gatherer, 4 Return to Cinder with glove equipment, 3 Psionic Flame with boot equipment, 3 Stargazer with trinket equipment, 4 Primal Prism, 4 Diamond Ice, 4 Blood Ice, 4 Sepulchra Crypt Dust, 4 Shards of Fate, 1 Diamond Shard, 1 Ruby Shard, 1 Wild Shard, 1 Blood Shard, 1 Sapphire Shard, with Zaharx as a champion, as she embodies not only the necrotic who came about because of Hex, has the artwork from one of the Midnight cards that talks about Brother Erasmus, and is also the epitome of the 5 shards of magic abundant in Entrath after Hex's impact. Now that the deck is ready, let's see it in action against the endgame optional campaign encounter, Savas, while delving into some more lore. Okay, going up against Savas. Let's see, going first? Not going first. Okay, that's not good. Going second means I'm going to take that. This is not too bad. We'll go ahead and keep this. There's some potentiality. We've got Midnight Paladin for the one-shot. We've got Midnight Fever for the one-shot. Shards of Fate, couple of ice. We have a Return to Cinder, which is our first answer against the elementals. So let's go ahead and see. It's interesting that the alternate art Lixil has names for each of the types of shards from Hex, and they don't correspond to the resources names. This could be what the necrotic believes shards are composed of, perhaps. Whether Hex and its crystals are beings or the distilled pure form of an emotion out of a collective of beings. We will put a random resource on our deck and end, because all we really need to do is make sure we keep up Return to Cinders. So, why are we fighting Savas? Well, yep, here comes the scorch right to the face. Well, not only is this a more difficult encounter, as you'll be able to see in just a few seconds, but the location where we fight, where the fight takes place, is currently one of the closest we can get to the North Pole of Entrath. So, the frozen board is the right place for Comet Strike to hit. Different time period, sure, but it has the right feel. So what we can do now is we have we've got all 3, right? We've got all 3 resources. Yep. So this is actually going to be pretty good. We're going to keep on putting resources on the top of our deck. So we've got that up. We're also going to take out a piece of nasty removals. So we're going to get let's get one of the Savas' Brilliances out. That's going to be great, because that might help us break out a troop. Okay, so here is where we're likely... Okay, good. We dodged a Blaze Elemental this turn. That's great. He didn't have something like a one of the fuels to draw 2 cards and then play that out, so that's wonderful. Okay, so this turned into Evocation, which doesn't really help us that much. We're actually going to make a Wild with this, and we're going to save ourselves a point of damage or use up one of his Savas' spells. So that's really good. And we've got the Return to Cinder, so either the Stargazer will... The Stargazer is going to eat Scorch here? Yep, Scorch here. That's fine. Okay, and the Savas' Brilliance, which is very scary. Okay, Emperor Tongue Skarn. Another Scorch, down to 5. Savas' Evocation on his own Elemental. Hey, sure, that's totally fine. And turn. While we don't have it yet, our ultimate goal is to find a Comet Strike, play it, and then win. So it's just a matter of delaying our win until Midnight Hour, the time when Hex hits Entrath. Speaking of Midnight Hour, I made reference to the art style having a chaos-like theme. There are many chaos cards that have either eyes on them or very eye-focused. So that really pairs well with that whole Brother Erasmus corruption side of things. Let's go ahead and Prodigy and Midnight Gatherer. And then I've got my blockers up. And then next turn my Midnight Paladin is going to be huge. So I'm going to be able to push through, keep my Midnight Paladin alive, heal up a bit off of his life total. Yep, down to 4. There's Savas's Familiar, which is why we've got the gloves on... this is why we've got the equipment on Return to Cinder. 1, 2. Get rid of both of those. Yep, that saves my life total. And now we're going to be able to swing in, do some damage. Let's go ahead and start building up my second rounds. Let's choose Wild there. Okay, and now we're going to swing in with Midnight Gatherer to do 5 damage, which peels his armor. And then I'm going to play my Midnight Paladin, do 4 damage, heal me up 4. And then my Midnight Gatherer will turn into a life drain troop as well. And this should get me well underway. Midnight Convergence. And another Fuel for Fire. Okay, hey, Sonic Flame is great. That's fine. Let's go ahead and one-shot this. Excellent. So there's our diamond done. We'll take this 7. No, I don't think we can take the 7. No, I think I have to, because I'm not exactly sure actually if he doesn't have another Scorch in his hand or not. I'm unsure. Yep, Stroke of Midnight. It's fine because this is just about padding our life totals until we find the Comet Strike. On Hex's website, they actually call Hex a meteor, but with the dimensions and how huge it is, I think it would likely be classified as an asteroid, right? I left it as an asteroid in the video just in case, but who knows, maybe Entrath has different classifications for celestial bodies than we do. So we're going to go ahead and play out this Prism. And I have more blood in my deck than Sapphire, so we will choose Sapphire. And that should do it. Okay, and here comes another Blaze Elemental. And a Savas's Familiar. My life total is nice and juicy now, so I'll just block this off and get a ton of Phantoms off of this. And you can see this is really right around the time that we would just win, right? But at the same time, we are trying to find things. So let's go ahead and do 3, so we can draw 3 cards. And there's our Comet Strike. Okay, perfect. So now what we can do, I'd really like to get a Blood out. Because what I can do is I'm going to start prepping for 9 resources. What is this? So for 3, gain 6, but that's going to change next turn. So let's just go ahead and pull from his hand just a Scorch and a resource. So we'll take that. Let's go ahead and swing in. Get that damage. All of these cards are basically useless because I'm setting up for the Comet Strike, because otherwise, what am I doing? Yep, that's fine. Mostly these are just to take out the flyers if he has another Savas's Brilliance. There's a Midnight Fever. Okay, so that means that we can afford the Comet Strike. Let's go ahead and set this up with a non-resource card on the top of my deck. Right there. We'll save this in case he holds on to something. We're going to Midnight Fever. Let's play it. We've got enough resources for Comet Strike now, which is a quick action, so we will not play it until the end of his turn. 7, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22. Okay, so this could almost be lethal. So we want to do 16, 22, 25. So 28 will be lethal, so we'll just leave them at the very, very minimum. Down to 3. End phase, and get ready for the comet. Here it comes. It's not the extended art one, which is unfortunate, but it's close. If he swings in here, I'm going to block with my Stroke of Midnight, because why not? Let's heal up a little bit more. 9. Okay, let's continue to the end. And then, Comet Strike! Everything's gone! Oh my gosh. Boom! And I've got a non-resource on the top of my deck, which is a Midnight Paladin. Fantastic. Do you see that? This is the best. I probably should have used the one-shot just in case, you know, for the 1 in 5 chance to catch a blood. But that was just amazing. That's 2 damage. Not enough. Still fine. Oh my gosh. Right after the let's take this Scourge out of his hands. Right after the comet came down, out came the Midnight Paladin. The interesting thing about the Midnight Paladin is he's the only necrotic paladin that has the warrior class. Every other necrotic paladin has the cleric class, and one has to wonder if this means the Midnight Paladin represents the very first necrotic, as a cleric generally has like a background of training or teaching, which you can see in the flavor text of the Paladin of Nagan. So maybe the Midnight Paladin set up the order that trained all future necrotic paladins? Unsure. I mean, this could either be the very first necrotic, or it could just be the first necrotic paladin. Either way, we're all good. Let's swing in, finish this guy off with all of our midnight cards. He will likely get... Oh, Savas' Familiar. That's okay. My life total is ridiculously good. And what we're going to do... Oh my gosh, a Psionic Flame. So the Psionic Flame shows how the Hexing Gems have influenced Entrath. Because now they're showing how the Hexing Gems have interacted with the minds of the people who are using them. And the alternate art Psionic Flame also has more lore on that topic. It's a situation where Entrathians can no longer get away from the Hexing Gems now and how they're influencing their lives. And what we can see right now is just the power of the Hexing Gems after they've come down. We're going to do a big, fat 9 damage to draw 9 cards and finish off Savas. So, excellent. Here we go. Psionic Flame! Boom, with our Midnight Hour and everything. That just finishes him off. Well, there you go. Excellent. Excellent.
Thanks for watching. If you have any suggestions about the lore-locked videos you'd like to see in the future, please leave a comment on the forums or on my channel. And, as always, I'm MSB, wishing you good games and good times.